Hey everyone, this is Daniel,
And I'm Jun,
and we are
Korean.
American.
Hey Daniel,
Hey June.
how's your weekend?
It was good. What was this weekend?
Cool. You didn't start with pretty uneventful. It was a good weekend.
It was pretty uneventful though. No, it really was. Let's see, what did I do? Okay, in my defense, we didn't do much. Saturday, I took my son to a school badminton event.
That's very eventful. Is it not?
Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a small thing, but four of the international schools got together. They called it a jamboree, and they just played badminton in doubles against each other. But it's cool seeing my son's confidence in badminton grow. I wouldn't say historically he's been very into sports overall. The only exception is net sports, so tennis, badminton. He seems to like them. But he never seemed to really like care to get better. Doesn't care about winning or losing. He's just like kind of an activity for him and maybe a way to play with me. But yeah, this was the first time I saw him actually have any sense of like, oh, I want to get better. Oh, Dad, do you think I'm playing well? Did you see that shot? So that was cool.
Do you think sometimes you force him to play sports when he's generally not really interested?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because my childhood was 100% like that too.
Oh really?
I
Your
tried
parents-
so many sports, though I found very little of them interesting. Yeah.
Is that common in Korea for parents to push sports on their kids? Because it's very, very common. In
I
the
think
US.
just a common father-son relationship.
Oh yeah. Play sports together.
Yeah.
That's true.
I tried so many things.
What sports did
Well,
you
you
try?
name it, like everything. Like soccer. I took soccer lessons.
Baseball.
Baseball, I don't think I took
okay.
lessons. Like swimming,
Speed skating.
golf.
Oh, golf.
Yeah.
June, you play golf?
I did when I was little. I mean, I
wow.
never like went on a field, I think.
Yeah.
I thought it was like the most boring and tedious type of sport. Because when you're little,
Yeah.
it's very challenging for a child to stay there at the same time doing repetitively the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
I tried komdo.
Oh, judo. Oh, no. Kendo.
Kendo
With
is
the
that how
stick,
you,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hori, mori.
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh, hey, how do you know that?
We goofed around a bit in taekwondo at my
Oh, I
taekwondo.
see. Yeah, of course, taekwondo and then tennis, all of that.
Cool.
And then going to mountain hiking every single weekend.
You told me. That's why you have some trauma. Yeah. I didn't get any sports pushed on me. No lessons for anything. But mostly I spent a lot of time growing up with my church youth group and the kids in the neighborhood. And all we did was some sort of physical stuff. So yeah, I just grew up playing basketball in the neighborhood on people's driveways. Soccer like in someone's backyard, things like that. So, but did not do any formal sports. It's interesting. I never considered taekwondo a sport. I did taekwondo for 4 years in middle school, elementary and middle. But I don't think of it as a sport. It doesn't register as a sport to me.
Oh, that's true because it's like martial arts, right?
Yeah, it's like a martial arts. It's like a hobby. Maybe now that
Maybe
MMA
it's a
is
form
bigger.
of art.
Yeah, I think it's just it's more like exercise. Like I wouldn't consider yoga a sport, even though maybe it is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Cool.
it's just interesting.
You know what? What I found very interesting is that it's like coming from a single person. Whenever you say you did something with your child, it just feels so like a special event. Whereas like for you, it's not very eventful.
Yeah.
Like going to a badminton thing
Yeah.
with your kid that he's participating in
Yeah.
sounds very special and eventful.
I see.
Yeah.
I had fun. Don't get me wrong, but I don't consider it necessarily special or eventful. Yeah.
I went bowling with my friends
Nice.
on Saturday.
Yeah.
And
That's like twice in a month now. No?
I think so.
Okay.
So we played 2 rounds of games. And then there was like, and if you go to bowling alleys, there's typically like those bar game things, like darts and stuff like
Darts,
that.
yeah.
So we played darts while we were waiting for a lane to become open.
Okay.
and then we played 2 games.
Yeah.
I lost all 3 of them. And I ended up paying like 20만 원.
Because you bet?
Yeah. For every single thing.
So you lost darts, and then you lost both bowling rounds.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say you found that you have a special gift in darts.
No, not really for darts. I'm pretty okay in bowling.
Yeah.
I think I was like a bit too tipsy.
Then it was a good round.
Yeah.
Is bowling trending?
I don't think
if
it's
you've
in
gone
trend.
twice in a month, I feel like it's on the upswing.
Really? I mean, it's not. I think it's not trending. It was always a thing. I guess.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
never gone out of trend. Okay. Let's see. Sunday for me, no, very uneventful. Yeah. Okay. I like I said earlier though, I feel justified because, we were in Taiwan for 10 days, came back. Kids were still not back in school, so you had to keep them occupied for a few more days. And then this past week, my wife was very busy at work. So I had to take on even more kind of responsibility at home. So this coming week is my first week to kind of reset and get back into a normal routine. So looking forward to also starting to think about some of the Korean American podcasts or some of the podcast resolutions we kind of made.
Oh.
And thinking about, just like actually focusing on the podcast again,
Oh, cool.
rather than just like staying afloat.
I'm excited.
So, we'll see. I'm excited too to put
Yeah.
some more time and cycles into this. But anyway.
Anyway, what's a good transition? So, so I grew up becoming a designer, and I think there is an interesting correlation. I mean, I think there might be a significant correlation between designers and sports. Like, I don't see a lot of my like colleagues or like fellow designers being really into sports.
I see.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
think
where are
it's
you going with this?
I think it's like a very different mindset, I think. I mean, although there are designers who are very into sports, there's always an anomaly, but there is a correlation, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today, we're going to talk about design.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the differences in design trends for both Korea and America.
I'd say the equivalent, maybe stereotype would be, I don't know, artists in generally aren't as into sports, maybe.
I think
so. Is that
so.
what you're going for? Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone who's in the field of art, right? I wonder why that is.
I think engineers too. There's a general perception that they're not as athletic.
Yeah.
It's like you're either, I guess smart or athletic is the typical
I see.
stereotypical divide. But obviously that's not true. There's exceptions all over the place.
Yeah. Anyways, we're going to talk about design. I wish I was a bit more prepared for architecture.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Either I couldn't find a very significant difference. I mean, there definitely is. I mean, yeah, just by looking at the outside of what we're seeing right now of the cityscape, it is very different. Anyways, but I will try to drive the conversation a little bit more than usual.
Jun, you didn't bring up why you feel a little less underprepared.
Yes. So for every Thursday evening, when we're prepping to publish our episodes, I have to come up with thumbnail designs, right? And so I realized that there's a very different trend in how YouTube thumbnails are designed.
Yeah.
Depending on whether it's coming from Korea and the US. And I think that's like a pretty universal, like a mindset or a tendency in design that you can see in almost like in different other design domains as well. May it be like packaging design, like book cover, like movie poster design and all that. So I thought this is worth covering. And I want to also expand it out to like advertisement and architecture maybe.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And so also an interesting fact that I want to state here is how like our social media sort of starting blowing up. It coincides with when we started to use the more Koreanized format.
Yeah.
That's why I think we have more Korean audience too.
Yeah,
to be
of
more
course.
appealing.
Yeah.
So like if you scroll down in the very beginning of our Instagram, our Reels format was very quote unquote Americanized, right? It, I guess, crops every time to a single person when they're talking.
Yeah.
Like, so like switching back and forth and not a lot of text, right? That kind of format, to like having a title and then like subtitles, of course, is a different thing, but like highlighting both speakers.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a Korean thing though. Anyways, like constantly having a title up on top.
Yeah.
I think that's a Korean thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, you started putting Hangul though on as well, right? So I
Yeah.
think that was also a big change. Koreans are like, oh, this is for me too. Maybe. I don't know.
God, I can't believe I forgot to mention UX UI design, which is very different too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Do you want to start with social media or start with apps and UI, UX, stuff like that?
I think social media.
Okay. Let's
Yeah.
start with social media.
So I think social media thumbnails,
Yeah.
the way that you design is pretty aligned with advertisement or movie posters, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, let's focus on YouTube thumbnails first, right? I think Korean YouTube thumbnails are very text heavy.
Yeah.
They like almost a lot of the times they're almost just text. They don't even have an image there. It's just very text heavy, very descriptive of
Yeah.
what they're going to say. And of course, in both countries, when they're creating YouTube thumbnails, they want to be clickbaity. But I think in the US, they try to drive it with the image a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas like in
100%.
Korea, they try to do it with the text.
Ah.
Yeah. It's very text heavy.
So clickbait in Korea is some sort of very text heavy still, of course, but like what is the language being used that would entice a Korean to click? What is clickbaity language?
It's almost like well, there is definitely clickbaity language because like if you think about advertisement.
I guess I'm curious, what is the Korean clickbaity language? Because in English, it's like top 10 things that blah, 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 you'll never guess. Or it's like, it's something very intriguing, like, I retired and moved to the blah, blah, blah for a year, whatever, right? Like, so it's always very intriguing like that. Or I'm just curious if it's the same.
I think it's pretty much the same.
Okay.
But it's in Korean though. Yeah. I don't see a lot of difference there. Maybe there is. There should be.
I mean, again, the stereotype is in English, the clickbait, it's just oftentimes it's not even relevant or related necessarily to the content. It's at best very misleading and not accurate. I'm curious if that would bother Koreans more. In America, you just kind of assume like, yeah, they'll say anything to kind of get the click. And they all sound so repetitive now. The funny part is the more popular, let's say, YouTube channels I do follow, everyone knows you have to post regularly, almost daily, right? To try to keep an engaged audience.
Yeah.
The whole struggle I see with them trying to come up with original titles, original thumbnails, it's like they just keep adding exclamation points. Like it's almost comical how they're trying to keep their content and titles more fresh to keep people coming, right? And I know you've said something similar where you're afraid if we're wearing the same thing or if the title or if the thumbnail looks too similar between episodes, people might think, oh, we've already seen that, or they're less likely to click through.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm curious what the Korean clickbait language sounds like.
I think, let me tell you this. One thing that's kind of might be different between Korea and America is that I think Korean people are really into like grading things.
I agree. Yeah, ranking.
Ranking and stuff like that. Yeah. You know what's interesting? I think the pinnacle of clickbaity text is actually not YouTube thumbnails. It's like Threads or Twitter.
So text-only platforms.
Yeah.
Or text prominent.
So when I see Instagram, you know how they're pushing Threads a lot?
Yeah.
So they have like little sections where they highlight a little bit of Threads there.
Yeah.
And it's so clickbaity.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like it's so stimulating. Yeah.
But okay, so in the Korean language, there's no, I was going to say there's no uppercase, right? There's no bold per se. They use bold. There's bold.
There's bold.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no italics.
There's italics.
There's Korean, and you can italicize Hangul?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But it's not used in a very formal way that it is in English.
Yeah,
but there is a format, yeah.
Underlining?
Underlining, yeah.
Okay. Exclamation points, of course.
Mm.
Yeah, but not as many. Okay, maybe Koreans use squiggly a lot more, like the tilde.
This thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is something very interesting. This like what do you call it? Like
Tilde.
a wave tilde?
It's called the tilde.
Tilde? No, I've never.
Or you can call it
Today I learned.
squiggly thingy.
Yeah, the tilde thing. It's usually in Korea. It's used to describe a range.
Oh.
So like
okay,
when you
okay.
say 0 to 10,
Yeah.
Koreans would write it like 0 tilde 10.
Oh, interesting.
And it doesn't translate to the States.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
no. In English, it's a dash. You would
Yeah,
put
yeah.
a dash for a range.
Yeah.
I thought
I
Koreans
wonder
use
why.
it to elongate the sound, right? Like,
Oh, that too.
yeah, like like ha 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 tilde tilde. It's like elongating the sound out, drawing it out.
But using the tilde thing is a very
Boomer
boomer,
thing.
thing.
Yeah, makes sense. It's hard to say. Okay, I think growing up, I also used it a bit that way to like draw out the sound a little bit.
yeah.
I'm wondering if that's like a Korean or Asian influence. I feel like an Asian thing to do. Or if it actually was like.
But when do you officially
American
use
thing.
that? For
Now I don't. Yeah.
But like in America, in English language, when do you officially use that?
Oh. I don't think there's any official.
But it
sorry.
made it place to a keyboard.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yeah.
It means approximately.
Approximately.
Yeah. So you would use tilde
Oh.
for like approximately 1 million if it's like, yeah.
Oh, that's true. Interesting.
Okay. But sorry, June, what are maybe in Korean, I'm just curious, what are the Korean words? Just like what are what's the equivalent of, I don't know, you'll never believe or top 10, most blah, 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 or I woke up one day and decided to quit my job. Like, is it the same exactly? What are these stimulating text words that Koreans use to draw you in?
I have to, but it's not a sentence structure per se. I think it's the content.
So see, it is different, I think.
Oh, I see.
Americans, they sometimes won't even tell you what's in. It's just like, so that's what I mean. It gets too clickbaity. But then sometimes you feel like you have to click in. But I will say personally, I'm now getting trained to, if it's too clickbaity, I'll just ignore it. Yeah. It really bothers me when the title gives zero information
I
about
see.
the content. So I just skip. Yeah.
So I'm looking at a thumbnail right now, and like the one thumbnail that I'm seeing, I'm pretty sure the content is about like going to someone's house and introducing everything that this person bought.
Yeah.
And the thumbnail goes 명품으로 꽉 찬 오피스텔.
What's that? Yeah.
It's like an
Luxury.
office stall that is filled with luxury goods.
I see.
I think like the content itself is like the sentence structure is not very different, but the content is very like clickbaity.
Do you think Western style, or I'll just say American style clickbait titles would translate and work well in Korea?
I think so. I think so.
We should try. We should start dominating the Korean cover photo or still market.
We should definitely try that. Yeah. So I think this heavy use of text translate to all printed media or even like screen media, right? Like UX, UI, or like web design too. For like printed advertisement, I think it's also very different between America and Korea. I think America's, if you see their printed ads, it's very minimalistic. They're not afraid to use a lot of blank space and let you focus on a certain, even if there is text, like a very short line that is very impactful. Whereas I think Korean advertisements, they're very descriptive in what they're trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I totally agree. When I switch accounts into our Korean American podcast account and I go to the Explore page, it looks nothing like my, personal account Explore page.
Yeah.
Because it's just full of Korean content mostly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, basically it's all text if I'm honest, compared to my personal Instagram Explore, which is, much more about the visuals and the text is, if it's there, it's very small and understated. Like they'll just put it on top or lay it over instead of putting like the background to really make the text pop. And so it's still more about definitely maybe the visuals, or it's intriguing in a different way. But I agree with you. It's definitely not informative. I think the goal is to kind of lead someone in, right? Be a little bit intriguing, mysterious, like pique, get their curiosity going.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, yeah, I don't read the Korean thumbnails as much, but my understanding is it's really trying to help the viewer know, okay, what exactly are you going to get when you click into this? Yeah. So from that perspective, maybe misleading clickbaity titles and text in Koreans would be very frowned upon. Because it's like, yeah, it is using text to try to draw them in, but without actually giving the user an understanding of what they're going to get. I don't know. It'll be an interesting experiment, though, like whether it does or doesn't work.
Do you think Korean language is easier to read? No, right?
Than English?
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know.
It's easier to read. That's why they're not afraid to put a lot of text there.
Maybe. It is more compact, for sure.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a big difference. Yeah. Every character is a word, whereas in English, your average word is probably 5 to 7 letters, right? Which is much longer. So, yeah, I mean, German, I think, is known to be one of the longest languages.
Yeah.
That would be a funny exercise to see what thumbnails look like in German, because clearly they can't put much text at all, and if they do, it has to be very small to fit in anything meaningful.
Well, maybe that's it. I mean, there definitely should be some correlation between how the language is structured.
Of the language. Yeah. I'm sure that plays a role.
Okay, let's talk about TV advertisements. I think I told you before, I subscribed to like a advertisement YouTube channel where they would 24/7 just play like American advertisements and also Japanese advertisements. And yeah, those two. I find it so fascinating personally because
how different they are, right?
Very different, and also very well depicts like the very core of their culture, kind of, because it's whatever is more appealing to them instinctually, right?
Yeah.
What I find very interesting about American ads, TV ads specifically, is that I think 9 out of 10 times they want to be funny. It's so interesting, like funny advertisement after funny advertisement. It's like everything they're trying to be funny, whether they're trying to sell like cereal or they want to sell whatever shampoo. There's always a bit of a witty aspect to it.
Clever. It has to be clever.
Whereas in Korea, I think it's they only try to be funny if they very specifically want to be funny, and their default tone is not witty. Witty, clever, or whatever.
Koreans don't appreciate that humor, I think, as much, right? Sarcasm, irony.
It's always like a little bit of sarcasm, irony, cleverness, and smart and funny at the same time. But it's like for every advertisement.
Oh, in American ads.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I think 2 things jump out immediately. Number one, what is the goal of advertising? I think for Americans, or American companies, it's often brand. So they want you to remember the ad, or they want you to associate that feeling that you got from watching the ad with that company. So it's just brand advertising. They're not trying to necessarily sell you on that specific product. They want you to associate the brand with something, right? And then 2, they want people to talk about it, right? Oh, did you see that ad? If the ad, my understanding of Korean ads, if it's just informative, it's like, oh, did you see that thing where I learned that you can get this thing for $10? Right? That's not something you're going to talk about. But it's like, yo, like, you got to see this. It's so funny. Or, you can't stop laughing, right? And then you share it with other people, talk about it word of mouth, right? It's office water cooler talk, maybe. And so I think those are the things that come to mind. Would both of those apply in Korean culture and context as well? What do you think the goal of Korean advertisers is primarily then?
I mean, the ultimate goal might be the same, like try to sell more products, right?
Okay, that for sure. But how do Koreans go about it? Yeah, it's like, it has to be more utilitarian, right? Best value, highest quality.
Understanding what the product is about.
Yeah.
I think it depends. I think Korean advertisements are also pretty nuanced and just trying to sell the image of the brand.
I see.
But it's very in a different way, not in a humor kind of way. They're more serious, I think, and they want to. A lot of times they want to look smart and chic.
Yeah. Luxurious,
right? Rather than being, I think American ads are more casual.
Yeah.
Casual, funny, humorous. Yeah.
Again, as far as like an advertisement sticking out in your mind.
Yeah.
Can you think of what does that for your typical Korean? Like, what would stand out for you when you see an ad?
Oh, this is one of the big differences. I think Korean ads famously use a lot of A-list celebrities. Whereas in the US, I mean, there are definitely ads that use celebrities, but I think most of the time it's not. They're just like actors.
Like,
Oh, is that offensive? Just when I say just actors, or like some people that wouldn't know their real names.
yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, not A-list actors.
Yes.
Because like Matthew McConaughey and Lincoln, like that's just, the whole ad is literally Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, like
dressed up.
Nespresso, right?
Yeah, or like driving with this expensive watch, looking sophisticated.
Yeah.
Driving this car. That's the whole ad, right?
Yeah.
And I think that happens in America a lot too.
But I think most of the time Korean ads would hire a very A-list actor or actress to be on it. I think that's a bit different.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I think they try to leverage the image of the person.
that actor.
Yeah. To show the brand image.
It's the same. I wonder, maybe it doesn't happen as much in the US because they're too expensive. I don't know.
Maybe. The companies have more money too.
In the US?
Yeah.
That's true. So you're saying it, yeah, maybe it does reflect something culturally.
This might be a East Asian culture thing too. Because when I go to Japan, I see a lot of advertisements that are like crazy text heavy. It's like crazy almost. Like I can't believe people have the time to stop and read all that kind of. Like if you ride on a subway and you see like advertisements on a subway, they're like just so much text. It almost looks comical.
Yeah.
But what's interesting for Japanese printed ads is that it's very polarized. Sometimes you see the very, very minimalistic, almost like a haiku kind of. You like playing Muji type advertisement, like one sentence and like all blank space. But then on the other side, you see like this like wall of text, like very text heavy thing. I don't know why that is, why it's so polarized.
Yeah.
But there are different types of advertisements I witnessed in Japan.
Yeah.
I also once worked for a Japanese tech company.
Yeah.
And when I do usability testing for some of the designs that we make, I think Japanese people want a lot of text in their apps. Like everything should be labeled.
Yeah, even more extreme than Koreans. Because that's one of my takeaways in Korea too. Users don't mind a lot of text-heavy interfaces, text everywhere.
Yeah.
Big walls of text, and they'll actually read them.
Yeah.
That feels like a difference, yeah.
Again, one of the most surprising things, or like one of the most surprising reactions that I get from Japanese app users is that they're afraid to click into something.
They don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
They want to know what's going to
so
happen.
they want to know exactly what it is by labeling it. And I think Korea is kind of in line with that too, although it's in a less degree. Yeah.
I did have one question though. Is the concept of brand advertising the same in Korea? Like, do brands care a lot, not necessarily about pushing a specific product, but just getting Koreans to associate positively or think positively or trust that brand? And, you know, because that's where I think a lot of the ad spend and marketing budgets in America goes to. Of course, like, you know, end the funnel, like converting people into a sale, etc. That's money well spent too. But again, like the vast majority historically has been around just brand advertising. Like we just want people to know our brand, associate positively with our brand, trust our brand. Is that the same in Korea?
I think it's pretty much the same, but it depends on, I think it depends on the context of how well established your brand is. In which case, I think they'll more heavily lean on to advertising their brand image. For instance, like Samsung. I don't think they really have to go into like the specs of what a Galaxy, whatever, 23 or whatever is. Versus like if your company is not very well known, but you want to push for the product that you're making, I think they'll more, you know, try to describe what the product is. Yeah.
One place I was trying to go with this is that I suspect there's just fewer options in Korea. Maybe that's not right, but because overall society and culture is dominated by the jaebols, right? The big conglomerates. It's like, well, there's like 5 big conglomerates that kind of own everything.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't really have to compete as much. I don't know if you agree with that, but a follow-up to that is because each of these conglomerates tries to do everything, right? From cars to electronics to apartments to convenience stores to restaurants, etc.
Yeah.
Does the brand reputation from one carry over to the other? Like, are Koreans like, well, we're an LG family or we're an SK family. We'll live in an SK apartment, shop at SK convenience stores, eat at the SK owned restaurants. Like, does that conglomerate brand carry over or not?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I mean, to begin with, I don't think there's a lot of people who would do that. Like, I want to only consume from a certain conglomerate company, but there are certain images that you can feel from a certain brand.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to offend certain people. I think that anything comes from a Samsung conglomerate, I feel that there's a certain confidence that it's going to meet a certain level of quality.
I see.
Whereas like,
how could that be offensive?
because I'm going to talk about some other brands that aren't. Like, for instance, okay, Lotte. I think sometimes they get it. Sometimes they're like kind of cheap.
Yeah.
Or like they don't know what they're doing, kind
Yeah.
of.
But interesting. What I was going to say is, in the US, right? Like, I don't know what's a good example. Like, Target, though.
Yeah.
Target's a bad example now. But I was going to say Target versus Walmart, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe Whole Foods versus something else. You're just targeting different market segments, right? Like, some are targeting the upper middle class, the more well-off and rich, and some people are going to target the lower middle class and lower class, right? So it's like market segmentation, and that's fine, right? Some brands are associated with the higher class and some are associated with the lower class, and that's perfectly acceptable. That has to exist in Korea too, right? Like,
Yeah, of course.
okay. But why is that? What's wrong with saying then Lotte? Oh, because Lotte wouldn't like to be associated with the more bargain.
But I feel like if you, like in terms of the world of conglomerates, they're basically targeting everything. So they have a lot of things that are completely the same.
I see.
Yeah. But even if you see the same product that is targeting the same audience, sometimes I feel like Lotte is a bit 촌스러워.
See, that's what I mean. I think in Korea, everyone wants to target everything.
Yeah.
Right? And so there is less maybe differentiation. I don't know. It's just what I'm getting at.
Or they always want to target for the top class.
Again, that's what I was trying to see if that's true. Yeah. So every brand just wants to be associated with luxury, high end.
Right? I think so.
I mean, that's not true in the US.
What's like a very typical...
Like Walmart is targeted towards like your everyday working person, right? Walmart doesn't think it's targeting the upper class, high end, right?
Okay, maybe like Daiso is a good example. Daiso is like known to be very cheap, affordable things that they sell versus like a, I don't know, department store.
Exactly.
Right? So there is a difference. Yeah.
Here, I think a very good example might be cars. Right, historically, I think there's been maybe 3 car brands. It's consolidating now. I think it's going to be one soon.
Yeah.
That's true, right? I think isn't Hyundai buying Kia or something?
Oh, they bought it a very long time ago.
Okay. So there's essentially one car company in Korea now.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, if you're going to buy a car, it's just, Hyundai's not competing with anyone, right? So maybe
in Korea, no.
The brand of Hyundai in Korea is not that important. Right? Like, that's the whole point of brand advertising. It's like where you're inundated with all these different brands, all these different companies. Like, you need to stand out. In Korea, Hyundai doesn't need to stand out. It's just
Korea,
Hyundai.
at least not. Yeah.
So it would make sense that Hyundai wouldn't spend any money advertising their brand in Korea, right?
Wait, I'm just curious. What's the brand image of Hyundai or Kia in the US?
Come on, you know.
I know, but
you don't need
maybe our audience don't.
Okay, it's changed.
Yeah.
But Kia, especially historically, was known as like very cheap, very prone to breaking, low quality, etc. Hyundai was similar, but not as much. I want to say this all changed at some point. I think Hyundai came out with best-in-class warranty. So whatever, 10 year, 100,000 miles, whatever. It was better than their competitors. I think ever since then, maybe the reputation has changed. And quite frankly, the quality of the cars has gotten to be quite good. So I think it's not just the brand and marketing that's changed it, but the actual quality of the car, I think, is now people have realized it's a good car. But yeah, typically, the Japanese car makers were known to be super reliable. Toyota, Honda.
Why do you think that is? Because I think Korean people also have a choice to buy other brands than that is not Hyundai if they wanted to. Like they can go for Japanese cars or German cars where they do a lot. But still, I think Korean consumers are very demanding. And so if it's not good quality, I don't think they would buy that much.
I think you know the answer to this, June.
I don't know, actually.
I think it's just value. So Korea puts a heavy import tax, I think, on foreign cars. And so it's just if the Hyundai is half the price of the Toyota, of course you're going to buy the Hyundai, right? Yeah. I think also, you tell me if I'm wrong, Koreans do have a sense of pride in their own stuff. I mean, this is true in America too. Actually, my eyes were open, June. We're getting super off topic, but not really. I remember starting to browse, actually read a lot of the comments on Amazon in the US. I don't know why I was going down this rabbit hole, but there's a trend maybe 5-6 years ago where everyone started putting like made in USA, US manufacturing. And the meme growing up for me and my generation was, everything made in China, cheap, right? It's gonna break. It's not as good quality, but it's cheap, right? And so like this made in USA, I think wasn't as like strongly pushed. For whatever reason, it wasn't like, at least for me, it didn't register as saying like made in USA everywhere. But recently on Amazon, maybe it's because the influx of like Temu and all these other like the flood of other products that are really cheap and made in China and aren't as high quality. But I think it's also this rise in like American nationalism, bring jobs back to America, American manufacturing, whatever. But yeah, it was so stark. Like every single thing that was made in America, all the comments were like made in USA, only buy made in USA, etc. And the things that were not made in USA was like, do not buy this. You have to support USA. Only buy things that are made in USA. So it just became like this crazy.
You're saying this is a recent thing?
I'd say not super recent, but I started noticing it in the last 4 or 5 years, I'd say.
That's very interesting. I know that definitely people want to buy more stuff coming from their country, but I think primarily it's because of the quality, not just for the sake of supporting the country though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like Korean people use that term too, 국산.
Yeah.
Meaning made in Korea.
Oh, I see that everywhere, especially for like produce.
Yeah.
Meats, dairy, things like that. Yeah.
But it's not meant to communicate
national pride?
Yeah, or like you have to support something that's coming from our country. It's more about like the quality. Like it'll meet a certain quality because it's made in Korea, kind of.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I don't.
I think Americans.
Although during like the late 90s and like the quote unquote IMF era, there was like a patriotic movement of like, let's try to consume more things that are coming from our country.
Yeah.
But that was like a very special occasion. Whenever you say like 국산, it means that it's like, it means quality, not nationalism.
See, I find that so hard to believe because in my American context, made in USA, of course, there is a correlation to quality, especially in contrast to made in, China or some other cheap manufacturing countries. But I would say even on par, maybe if not more, is about national pride and supporting America, bringing jobs back to America, keeping money in America. So I think that, if what you're saying is true about Korea, it's very surprising to me. Yeah.
What is made in USA to you? Like what does it mean when you say, like you see like two different products? One is from the USA and one is from, let's say, I don't want to say China.
Okay.
Let's say it's from Korea.
Interesting.
Like what does made in USA mean to you?
Yeah, for me, primarily then, in that context, I would not think of buying the USA one for higher quality. I would think of it as maybe more expensive, but doing so to support American industry. Yeah.
Oh, that is very interesting. I don't think Koreans would have that in mind.
Yeah, I think, here's one. Korea is more and more exporting labor, right? I suspect. It is, a very high economy, very expensive country. But I think in America, there's never any association with like, oh, if it's made in US, it'll be cheaper. For sure not.
That's not.
So it's like, oh, why are you spending more money, right? And I would say it's not necessarily quality. Okay, these days, because of the influx of like hyper cheap things, there are a lot of concerns over the materials used, right? Are these like really cheap materials? You know, microplastics, like carcinogens, these are like very top of mind for Americans more and more. It's also maybe the ethical idea of supporting very cheap labor, right? Like, do I want to support this thing that was maybe made by 8-year-olds in a foreign country? Whereas I think, you know, the ethical sourcing of labor and materials in the US is, I think you trust that more. So I think that's the biggest thing. When I see made in US, okay, I'm willing to pay more to support America and maybe not support things I ethically don't believe in, right? Child labor, etc.
But there must be some kind of brand image of a country when it comes to manufacturing, no?
I don't know what the global image of US is.
I'll tell you one thing. I think iPhones very famously say designed in California.
Yeah, but they're made in China.
To not say made in China, though.
Yeah.
So there must be like a country image that they want to leverage.
Yeah. I think the country image is what I said.
Interesting.
It's more not American quality on its own. I think America's brand is maybe innovation and ingenuity, right?
Yes.
Less so manufacturing excellence because of a lot of things we could get into. But yeah, I think that designed in California aligns with that, right? It's like, oh, this technology and innovation and engineering came from America, right? But everyone knows Americans, you know, it's very expensive to build things in America. And so, yeah, anyway.
Do you want to talk about country brand image a little bit?
But you name a country, I tell you what the image is?
Maybe. Or like, we don't have to play a game per se, but like, for instance, I think for a long time, made in USA in Korea had a pretty good brand image. I don't know if they have it anymore.
Yeah.
But like, I think it was sort of like good quality, kind of like better quality.
Oh, was that the
like
brand image?
미제.
What's 미제? Oh, that means high quality.
No, it means made in the US.
Oh, 미국계, what's 미제 literally short for?
Manufactured in the US.
What's the 제 though? 미국 제? 제 is
like
manufactured?
제품, like 제작.
So it's 미국 제품.
Yeah.
Okay, 미제.
Or like, I think famously, Japan has a very good manufacturing, like made in Japan.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Or like made in Germany.
Yeah, German as well. So funny story there. You know, one of our cars in the US, we got an Audi with a diesel engine. And like just one thing that my friend TT, if you're listening, he said, you know, if you're going to buy a German car, they're known for their diesel engines. Best in the world at making diesel engines. So you should buy a diesel engine car if you're buying a German car.
Yeah.
So, okay. And that stuck with me. And that's ultimately the only reason we bought this German diesel engine car.
Yeah.
Anyway, turned out to be
a scam.
Yeah. That car was recalled.
Yeah.
Because the diesel engines were
where they faked the test, right?
Polluting more than they had been allowed to. But anyway, yeah, so Germany is also associated with quality engineering. Yeah, Japan was always, especially in the 80s and 90s, like they were the pinnacle of technology, I'd say.
Yeah.
Especially consumer goods. So you could always expect the best and most, I think, innovative consumer electronic goods from Japan. And then, yeah, Korea, like I said.
What's outside of Kia and Hyundai, what's the image of made in Korea as an American? And like trying to be more agnostic.
Yeah, to my own.
Yeah.
I mean, I can honestly say like Korea is just associated with China and I'd say
really
Vietnam, etc. Yeah, it was not more closely associated with Japan until I think recently, and even more so. I don't think it's gotten to that point yet.
Interesting.
But honestly, you never see made in Korea. I don't think.
It was like Samsung. What do you think about Samsung phones?
I'd say growing up, I do recall like seeing made in Korea randomly, let's say on T-shirts or something like that.
Yeah.
But you just never saw it.
Yeah.
So for me, it was almost like a novelty. Oh, this is made in Korea, like my motherland, right? That's cool.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it was associated with necessarily high quality. Yeah. It was probably more associated again with cheap labor and cheap manufacturing. Yeah.
I wonder what made in China would be for a Chinese person. Would they still think it's a cheap thing?
I don't know, yeah.
I also wanted to mention a little bit. This is a bit of a side note.
Okay.
But the first time that I realized how Americans think of Korean cars
Yeah.
is through Friends.
Oh, did they mention it?
There's just like one scene where they're like, I think they're debating whether they want to pull in to buy a lottery tickets. And I think this one character says like, oh, like statistically, you won't ever gonna win, so I'm not gonna chip in to buying the lottery.
Yeah.
And this one character says like, oh, when we all get rich and like meet in like Vegas with our helicopters, you'll come like driving your Hyundai or something. And so
that's interesting. Yeah.
that's when I first realized how Americans view Korean cars.
Yeah. Kias in particular, I think, they were so cheap. I want to say I remember at one point, let's say your average, Toyota Corolla was like $15,000, $20,000 US. I think Kias were under 10,000. Like they're just really cheap. But and of course there is a market for cheap cars. But that's not necessarily what you want to skimp on quality, right? With your car.
Wait, do Americans know that the Genesis is a Hyundai brand?
I think they would know that, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But to be honest, most people might not recognize the brand because it's just not as prominent.
It's become it's like one of the most successful car brands in Korea.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's the high-end Hyundai.
Yeah.
So I think...
It's the Lexus of the Toyota.
Yes. If I'm not mistaken, though, I think they started selling their car with an iPad. Like the iPad came with the car. I think.
Really?
Or maybe
like it's installed in the car, or just give it out as a gift.
Yeah. Maybe it was just in the US.
Oh, okay.
But if I remember, that was some of the advertising. Maybe it was not an iPad; it was a tablet. But yeah, I think that was like their goal was to make it feel luxury, and it worked. Yeah. I don't think this is my Korean ethnicity playing a big factor. I think, oh wow, they're like giving away an iPad. It's like $1,000 thing with their car. Okay, yeah, it's like, okay, this is interesting. So
okay, I mean, yeah, we weren't gonna talk about advertisement and brand image.
That was not the goal per se.
Yeah,
but it is a big part of design, I think.
Yes.
So, all of this is to say, in Korea, due to its homogenous nature, and I think like more utilitarian, maybe that's the wrong word, more savvy population, right? They care about value and quality a lot more.
Yeah.
Brand advertising is just not as important here. Yeah. Whereas in the US, I think it's where most of the advertising dollars go to.
Let's talk about movie posters.
Yeah, this one was very stark, June, when you showed me the difference side by side.
Because a couple of episodes ago, we recorded the Lady Vengeance media review. And when I search Lady Vengeance on Google, you see both the Korean poster and the American, like the international poster version of the same movie.
Yeah.
And then I went down a rabbit hole about like, oh, there's like this difference in how they design posters when the same movie is advertised in Korea versus like internationally.
Yeah. Why don't you? Oh.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest differences like how minimal it is, and like obviously less focusing on the actor and actress, and just like very more impactful than being informative.
Yes.
Yeah.
They want you to feel something.
Yes.
Yeah. Or be blown away by the visuals or the grandiosity of whatever it is. Yeah. It's very epic almost, right?
But to be fair, again, one of the biggest difference especially for movies, when they're trying to advertise it in Korea, I think the biggest selling power is the main character, like the actor and actress. So they want to highlight their faces more. Whereas like these people are nobodies internationally. So they tend to focus more on the character or like the plot, I guess.
Sorry, say that again. When Korean films are advertised abroad, is that what you're saying?
When Korean films are advertised in Korea,
Korea.
they try to leverage the actor and actress more.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas when they try to sell it outside of Korea,
I see.
they're basically nobodies.
I didn't look at any of those. So what, like Parasite or...
Yeah, Lady Vengeance.
Lady Vengeance.
Yeah.
Oh, Lady Vengeance was even advertised abroad.
I mean, they do have a poster.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So like they don't really highlight or like zoom into the face of the main actress, which is Lee Young-ae.
Yeah.
She's a very famous A-list actress here in Korea.
Yeah. No one would
that's
know her
like
outside.
a difference, and there definitely is a trend in design which is in line with the advertisement design and all that. It's just like more minimalistic, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've touched on this already with the ads in general. For sure, in America, the stars, they're super important. But I also think no one's gonna watch that just to see them per se. I think it's all this thing where like only the A-list stars are going to be in the very good movies. So you can almost associate that character with a high quality film or production or whatever. And so they just don't need to focus on that as much. And I think they want you to remember or to be moved or to feel something when you look at that poster.
Yeah.
Like I think one was Titanic. It's just literally this massive ship.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the whole ad, right? And maybe in the smaller faces of the stars are at the bottom and like in a row, so you can still see them. But yeah, it's just about like this massive, like epic feeling. Yeah, so it's very different.
I think boldness is also a factor here.
What do you mean by that?
I feel like Korean designs, maybe this goes hand in hand with like the risk averseness. I think Korean designs tend to, I feel like sometimes they're not brave enough to be very bold.
Yeah. That's
and
what
like
you mean.
trying to eliminate a lot of factors and just like show one thing that is very impactful. That's a risky decision in design, right? Like when you have like 10 things that are good about a certain product or a movie, do you really want to put all 10 of them, or like risk not showing 8 of them and only showing 2? I think that's a very bold decision.
Yeah.
And I think it has to do with like the national psyche a little bit, like about the risk aversiveness. Yeah.
I think Korea is just, of course, every society is like this to an extent, but Korea even more so is a copycat society. So they're like, hey, this is the traditional formula for movies.
Yeah.
It works. So long as no other movie producer within our country is changing things up, like we don't need to change. But I suspect US and Western media production companies have tested the heck out of everything, which is like, here are 100 different types of movie posters. Let's pay money and actually do research on all our population, our target demographic, etc., and just see which one is going to, after seeing this movie poster, would this want to make you go watch the film, etc., which is most effective. So I don't know if you feel as confident saying like for sure Korean advertising companies would do the same. But I suspect the Western format is optimized for, again, the Western audience, is one thing. But the typical like epic still, or I want another word for this because I keep saying epic still. But just like the single like really epic movie poster design, that it's very globally accessible is what I'm saying. Right? In general, pictures are more understandable than text. And like in order to internationalize the same like text heavy thing, it's much more difficult if there's a lot of text versus the image, right? I think Mr. Beast is very famous for his stills don't have text. It's just an image.
Yeah.
Because you can use the same thumbnail across the world. Whereas you can imagine like, the Korean text heavy thing, changing that into all the different languages is very tricky. So yeah, I think with an international audience in mind first, that leads you to less text. So.
This might be a little bit of stretch, but I think that like the styles in movie poster design or like advertisement design also has to do with individualism and collectivism too. I think that whenever something is very abstract, it's for the individual to interpret, and the feeling is theirs. Like a good example would be abstract art versus a very descriptive art, right? Like a photo, let's say.
Yeah.
Like abstract art is almost yours to interpret. It's like your individual feeling is more important than like what it actually is. Versus when something becomes very descriptive, it's like a collective thing, especially when it's described in text.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like the exact, it's like the exact information that everyone gets collectively at the same time. So I think like having more focus on individualism, right? I think it's natural that design should have more interpretations for the individual to consume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you take the same Korean text heavy actor actress focused movie poster
Yeah.
and show it to 100 Koreans.
Yeah.
They're all going to walk away with the same information,
Yes.
thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
But you take a more abstract image, show it to 100 Americans, they're all going to walk away feeling something different or thinking something different.
Yes.
So if this is true, are there any famous, do you know, abstract artists, or is abstract art as much of a thing in Korea? I can't even speak to America, so I'm just curious.
I'm not really well informed in the art scene, but
Yeah.
there are definitely like, I think one of the more internationally renowned Korean artists, a lot of them are abstract painters.
I see.
Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah.
Cool.
Whenever I think something's incomplete,
Yeah.
I think it opens up your imagination
Yeah.
and you start interpreting it in your own way.
Do Koreans feel in general uncomfortable about that?
I feel like they would be more so than an American.
Yeah. Sometimes they don't know they're like, oh, what should I?
I'm pretty sure there's a common pattern in how people consume art in a museum. I think Korean people want to read the descriptions more than an American would do.
I see.
Or like follow you call it the docent or like docent? Docent, I think. Like the one who explains the art to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think Korean people are more comfortable in understanding the information and knowledge behind an art.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to understand it and feel it by themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I go to like, let's say MoMA in New York, I see a lot of like Asian people trying to read everything.
Yeah.
Versus like Western people, they just trying to look and feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So as a country, Korea is more of a T, whereas America is more of an F.
Maybe. I heard that the most, I don't know if this statistic is true or not.
Yeah.
I think majority of Korean people are ISTJs.
Oh.
That's the most common MBTI. That's what I heard.
Yeah. There's no way that I would not think that's true in America. Yeah. Maybe not. I don't know. Okay. Jun, I never answered your question earlier. You asked about what's the perception of Samsung devices in the US now. I think it's changed, but at least historically.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say this. If you could afford an iPhone, you use an iPhone. And otherwise you get an Android phone. And again, Android is now synonymous with Samsung. So you get a Samsung otherwise. Yeah, I think it doesn't quite make sense now because Samsung phones are
expensive.
They're not as expensive, but they're still expensive.
I think they are like the foldable ones. They're almost
Are they?
Yeah.
See, I've been Android for a while, but I just know iPhones keep getting more and more expensive. They're crazy expensive now, by the way. I don't even know.
iPhones?
Yeah.
They're crazy.
They're absurd.
When you
Is that
see
right?
the first iPhones, they're like, I think up to iPhone 4 or something, they maintain their price of like $199, I think. Isn't it crazy thinking about how expensive phones are now?
Wait, are they over $1,000 US?
Of course.
Is that an of course?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Of course they're over $1,000.
Sorry, that is crazy. Yeah. I haven't bought a phone in so long.
Oh yeah.
Because I just got one at work.
Yeah.
I just used my work phone as my personal phone for so long. But anyway, yeah, I actually don't know how much they cost. But yeah, they're expensive.
I think Samsung is trying to almost intentionally meet the price of iPhones to maintain their high-end brand image, whether they have it or not. Okay.
Yeah, they don't have it. They really don't have that at all in the US. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. Yeah.
But I think their competitor is very unique, Apple.
Yeah. Apple's in a class on its own.
In like, I don't think there hasn't been any electronics company in the history of electronics that has like maintained this very luxury brand image where everyone has to buy it.
No,
almost.
I agree.
I think they're like very genius in that.
World class.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, let me make sure this is true. But I said it earlier, right? When the Genesis was trying to market itself as a luxury car brand in the US, giving away an iPad with its car, I think, was very effective. At least it worked for me.
Yeah.
If they were giving a Samsung tablet, it would not be the same. June, I did just look it up. According to ChatGPT, Hyundai never gave an iPad with its Genesis, but it did with its Equus. I think it was what's the Equus? Was it a precursor to the Genesis?
Yeah, I think before they launched their like sub-brand, that was like the most high-end
Hyundai.
car line in Hyundai, under Hyundai.
I see. So yeah, I think when they were trying to push the luxury Hyundai, they gave an iPad away, but again, never directly with their Genesis line. But anyway, this marketing, whatever, definitely worked because it's like, oh wow, iPads are very expensive.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have been as effective if they were giving a Samsung tablet. I've mentioned this before too. At least historically, I suspect it's still true. There was a huge stigma against Android users because on iMessage, when everyone's on Apple, everyone's just is it green or blue?
The blue.
Everyone's just blue bubble chatting each other in an iMessage thread. As soon as you introduce an Android number, it converts it, I think, to an SMS thread, MMS, and it just ruins everything. Or that user is highlighted in green, not blue. So everyone knows they don't have an iPhone. There's a huge social stigma against not having the blue bubble.
Especially amongst the Gen Z, right?
The younger population
like,
in particular.
A green bubble or something.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, it's like, I won't even date you if you have a blue bubble type thing. So, green bubble. I won't even date you if you have an Android bubble, right? So, anyway, it very much associated with just class and not being able to afford an iPhone. So I will also say, like, even as an Android first and primarily Android user, I prefer Android now. But I think I get judged by iPhone users as not having taste or design sense. It's like, oh, how can you use an Android
users, right?
Yeah, how can you use an Android? Like, iPhone is the premier, like it's premier, it's the best designed phone. It's so aesthetically pleasing. You must not have taste. And I think that's true for me.
I can attest to that because I haven't met a single designer who uses a Samsung. And if they would, I would like
You judge them.
I would judge them. Like, you use an Android, like you use a Samsung.
I cannot use an iPhone anymore. It would take, I'm sure I could.
But isn't it uncomfortable navigating through your life as an Android user in the US? Because I think a lot of apps, they just launch on the App Store.
I would say my life has never been uncomfortable as an Android user. It's more just socially I feel judged.
Oh, interesting.
I will say, like, Apple Pay, of course, was adopted more than Samsung Pay, etc.
Samsung Pay is a genius, though.
What do you mean?
Technologically, it's much more advanced than
is it?
The Apple Pay.
See, I wouldn't even know.
Not necessarily technologically, but in terms of like market expansion. Because Samsung, like the Samsung Pay doesn't need a separate device for it to work.
Apple Pay does?
Apple Pay does. You have to install a certain device on the store for you to do the Apple Pay. Whereas like...
Is that true?
Yeah. Because the Samsung Pay technology has to do something with the magnetic...
the RFID?
Like the magnetic field that a credit card, like magnetic swipe would generate. It just simulates that. So whatever, so you could actually use it in like a vending machine, whatever. So the way that they advertise it, I think...
Whoa, wait, what?
Yeah, so the way that they advertised it in the beginning is that you see like these people going to like a 시골. And you go to like this like small like supermarket that the 할머니 runs. And you can use your Samsung Pay.
Wait, no. Because there's no swipe. You can't swipe it.
Yeah, you put your phone on the swipe thing and it'll work.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is genius.
It is genius.
I never knew.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone in America would know.
Really? Because the Samsung Pay works... Like, it
you don't need a special
works,
like point of sale device?
No. That's the whole point of it.
That's nuts.
Yeah, so you can use it like basically anywhere that a credit card would work.
Used?
Yeah.
That is genius.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Oh my God, yeah. I mean, it makes you wonder why Apple Pay didn't do that.
I think it's heavily patented.
I see. Also, you know what it is, I think? It became pretty common for credit cards to have the tap to pay. So instead of having the swipe, you just hover. And I'm pretty sure that's what Apple Pay does too. Reuses that mechanism. So because all the POS like point of sale machines were being updated to allow for tap to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect.
That's NFC, I think.
Oh, NFC. You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Not RFID. Okay. We can move on to.
Oh, I
apps
can
and
add a
apps.
little bit about this social stigma for Android users in Korea. So the social stigma for iPhone users and Android or like Samsung users in Korea is that if you use a Samsung, you're a bit more of a 아재,
Old, yeah.
아저씨,
That's exactly what I thought. Yeah.
or like very utilitarian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that second one. Okay. How does that play out? Like because you wanted to use Samsung Pay everywhere?
Yeah, I think the two reasons that people use Samsung phones over an iPhone
Yeah.
is the automatic call recording
Oh yeah, yeah. We
Yeah.
mentioned this on the pod before.
and then the Samsung Pay. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I think the final thing we had wanted to talk about, June, was I guess app UI UX, which we have touched on throughout this episode so far. I don't know if there's anything more you wanted to highlight from your perspective.
I think one of the biggest differences in app design in Korea versus the US is the boldness. I think American apps are not afraid to use very big buttons, very bold colors, whereas in Korea, the number one thing that I hear in like design critiques in a Korean app company is quote unquote light하게.
Light tag. What's make it minimalistic?
Make it light.
Light.
So that it's not like very bold or big.
I see.
They always want to make it like so light.
Is
and
that
so
different
subtle.
from minimalistic?
Meaning that like even the buttons are smaller.
Smaller in
Yeah,
Korea.
smaller text, like
So annoying.
lighter. basically, very against accessibility.
Oh, more subtle.
Very subtle.
Smaller text.
Smaller buttons, smaller
Interesting.
text. Like they want everything to become so like ephemeral. Is what I feel like.
Yeah, that would. I don't know if I've ever picked up on that.
Yeah.
But I really do find Korean apps sometimes hard to navigate. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like make it obvious. Just like check and continue, right? But Korean apps are much harder.
Again, it's like the risk averseness, right? They want to put everything there so that it, like, yeah, they don't want to eliminate. If they want to communicate 10 different things, they would likely want to put 10 different
10
things.
different-
Yeah, and very again, like very light
Light.
to.
Light.
It's like always like the color contrast is like borderline.
Yeah.
Borderline just like wrong in terms of accessibility. Like they always like put like lower opacity, like small buttons.
Yeah, that's definitely the opposite when
Yeah.
I'm thinking about apps. It's like I want it to be obvious what
Yeah.
the user should do. Like no confusion, just like one thing, fewer options. Yeah, the other thing. Okay, so like when I look at my phone, I guess my phone desktop. What's the phone screen?
Home.
When I look at my home screen on my phone,
Yeah.
what app pops out to me the most is Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that app design would ever make it through like Korean app icon critique?
No,
It's
like
too bold, right?
It's too bold. Yeah, they would never. Yeah.
I get the risk averseness thing, but don't you also want your app to pop on your home screen? So why wouldn't Korean app designers want to make a bold thing to pop out more? Like, what's the thinking there?
I don't know. I think this has to do with the overall use of color and their mentality of like not trying to be super like crazily bold. I think it translates not only for app designs but also like use and color in general. Yeah.
Let's talk about color in a bit.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot there. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to cover, just in line with stuff we've already talked about in this episode, but applying it to app design, is iconography as big of a thing in Korean apps? Like, do you think a lot about what's the icon, how clear or how to minimize confusion over what the icon means and what it's going to do?
I think it is an important factor, but I'm going to guess it's less so than the US because a lot of times in the US, they only use the icon, so that it has to be more, I guess, clear. Versus in Korea, you almost always juxtapose it or with text or not even use an icon and just use a label on the button.
Text.
Yeah.
I will say this definitely comes back to how much space English takes up because, we, as a principle, we always want to include text with our icons. But as just a matter of real estate, screen real estate, space, etc., we can't always do it. So that's why the icon plays an even more important role. You have to communicate exactly what it's going to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, I think Korean, it's not hard to fit in the label with the icon. But in English, it can be very difficult.
So you're almost forced to leverage icon.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. In German, even more so, right? We always have to test our UIs in German. It's like, will this work?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into color then. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just curious. Can you take out your phone and like look at your home screen?
We're recording with my phone, so I can't.
Do you have any? I'm just looking at my Korean app home screen versus my Korean one is all white with like blue.
Yes.
Oh, this is interesting because this is an exception to what I was going to ask you, Jun. I suspected there would be no red dominant apps in my Korean one.
That's true.
Coupang is just a giant red thing though, which is the only exception I can find right now.
Yeah. But to be clear, it's not their brand color though.
Oh, it's not?
It's not, right? They never use it. I think
Coupang has the rainbow, the eBay style rainbow.
Yeah, they don't. It's kind of like their approach to brand color is more like Google. They don't have a specific color. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all blue on white.
Yeah,
literally.
but all of their CTAs are blue. I think. Coupang.
Interestingly, yeah. Toss. I mean, they're all just like all my banking. Toss. Kakao is famously yellow. That's true.
Yeah.
But I think we'll talk about red and what red is reserved for. But yeah, if I look at my US app home screen, it's like Reddit is bright red. Instagram is this crazy gradient. Spotify is green. Naver is green too.
Yeah.
But definitely the use of color seems to be more, not only color, gradients too. Like my Disney app icon, I don't see gradients on any of my Korean apps. Maybe it's a taste thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that used to be in and now it's not. But yeah,
I think Americans specifically
like gradients.
Recently, it was a trend
to move towards gradients
in app designs. Yeah, they use a lot of gradients.
The Instagram app icon is fairly old now. I think it's coming up on probably 10 years old. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, just maybe you can talk about red.
Yeah.
Like why red as a dominant color is not as prominently used.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before.
But it has to do with communism. Like like using the color red has a social stigma of being related to communism, which is true. Right?
Yeah, I think globally too.
Yeah.
It just doesn't register as much for an American.
Yeah, considering like all the history and national relationship to communism and all that, I think Koreans really try to avoid using red whenever they're like only when they really have to.
Yeah.
Other than that, they won't really use red that much.
But when do you really have to use it? Yeah.
To emphasize something very much, maybe. Oh. Yeah.
So do you think Coupang is being bold by having this giant red thing as its icon? It's still red on white. It's not red primarily.
Yeah, it's not red primarily.
80% red.
Yeah. But again, I think they only use it for their app icon. I don't know why.
Maybe to make it pop.
Yeah. I think the use of color in general, again, it's like the collectivism thing and individualism thing, because I think when they use color in Korea, it's most of the time very subdued and subtle because they prioritize harmony with other things rather than trying to individually pop out.
Ah, interesting.
Which I don't think is a very good way of using color.
I see.
Yeah. I think sometimes you want to be bold. Sometimes you want to be more harmonized with the surroundings.
Yeah.
But I think most of the times in the usage of color in Korea, they just try to subdue everything.
Jun, how did they get this way? And the reason I'm asking this is when I think of traditional Korean color palette, it's the opposite of what you said. It's super bright colors, just like bold everywhere. I'm thinking traditionally you got a word for it, but like the Hanok roof painting style.
단청, yeah.
hanboks are like known to be really colorful and like neon colored almost. Like, how did we get from that Korea in, let's say, the older days to like today, where everything's just monotone, subdued,
I think
lights, as you said?
I think the coloring in the temple is sort of a anomaly because it's a Buddhist culture.
Okay.
So that's not necessarily like it is now Korean tradition, but it's not like, I think it's sort of contained within that religion a little bit.
Interesting. Because before Christianity, I think you would have called Korea a Buddhist country, right? Or was it agnostic, atheist?
Confucianism?
Confucianism?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
But you don't think Buddhism has a huge impact on culture or society today?
It does, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But like that design thing was very specifically Buddhist.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not necessarily Korean. It's like Korean temple, which is more Buddhist.
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. What about hanboks?
Hanboks, I think, were traditionally just white.
Oh, see, this is
Like
where...
the colorful thing is like a relatively recent thing.
or for the royalty, maybe?
Maybe. If you see... Yeah, I think that's it. If you see pictures of like the Joseon dynasty, it's basically all white. Or a little bit of black,
interesting.
maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, as you said, only the royals used to wear very colorful hanbok designs to, I guess, definitely to obviously differentiate them with
The commoners.
yeah, the peasants, the commoners, yeah. And then like I think modern day hanbok designs wanted to replicate what the royals wear, I guess, kind of.
Yeah.
And that's why they use a lot of colorful, yeah.
It's changing though. I do think modern hanboks are more subtle in their coloring.
Yeah.
Not as like bright and neon.
Yeah.
This is an aside, but I want like modern hanbok wear to make a comeback. Especially if it's like just white and gray or black or like
Yeah.
simple colors.
Yeah.
I think that could be really cool.
Speaking of color usage, what I really hate about Korean coloring also is the way that they use lighting, color in their lighting. Whenever you see like a public structure, like let's say like a bridge or something, or like even in apartment buildings, they put like this LED strip.
You mentioned this before, yeah.
And I think this has to do with the risk averseness again.
They saw one.
Like they're not bold enough to choose a color.
Yeah.
And they always make it into like a rotating rainbow thing.
Yeah. Neon
it is so tacky. It's so tacky.
Yeah, even our apartment complex.
Why do they do that? Like, please, just like choose a color.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even if they do choose a color, they for some reason they use like this bright
the bold neon
blue
colors.
or whatever.
Yeah, I definitely have noticed this. I don't know where
that is so interesting because it goes against so many
everything else.
Yeah, like
it feels retro, right? Like it feels like an 80s neon thing, right?
Well, that's true.
And it just stuck. It
Speaking
never
of,
changed.
we should talk about signage too.
Yeah.
Like famously, I think the image of Korean cityscape to foreigners is like that plastering of like sort of like a cornucopia of like very colorful very colorful signages.
Yeah.
Now it's again very subdued.
Black.
Yeah, very subdued colors.
Yeah.
But famously Korea had like that very bright neon colorful signages.
Yeah.
I
miss that, Jun. I really hope Korea can preserve a lot of these alleyways or streets.
Yeah.
I'm afraid it won't, but I really hope it could. Yeah. That's one thing my wife comments on it too. Every time we go visit my grandma, like I said, in Shingumo, not Shingumo, Gumodong. She lives by Shingumo-yak.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just, at least for me, whenever I go to that kind of street or alleyway, I feel like I'm being taken back in a good way. I can understand, apart from the economic value of residents, they could see it as being like you said, maybe tacky or chansuru or outdated. But I particularly love it. Yeah. Do you feel the same way when you see like an old alleyway in Korea? Are you like, oh, this just needs to be updated? Or are you like, oh, I wish they could preserve this?
I think Korea, especially Seoul, is at a state where those kind of alleyways become a rarity. So that now I feel like we should preserve more of these areas.
I see.
Rather than like, oh, this is too outdated. Yeah. We can talk about buildings.
Yeah, June.
Yeah.
We haven't touched on architecture yet, which is your background.
Yeah. In terms of building and the way that Korean people perceive how building design should be, I think a great example is the DDP. It's short for Dongdaemun Design Plaza.
Yeah.
It used to be a baseball stadium, and then they demolished that to create this almost like a design convention center. They invited like a very famous British architect who's known to have like these very fluid, futuristic designs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And it was so much of a controversy back then. And the number one criticism was it doesn't harmonize with the surroundings.
It sticks out.
Yeah.
It really does stick out.
Yeah. See, that thing is something that I want to criticize. Not that it sticks out, the public sentiment for what sticks out, right? I think sometimes I wish Korean people understand how to embrace something that sticks out. Not only in terms of like cityscape and buildings, but like individual level, right?
Yeah.
Korean people can't stand people who are very different from others. And I think that well translates to building design as well. And my critique to that is like, if you see the surroundings of Dongdaemun, it's already a very crazy cityscape to begin with. So like, what is a Dongdaemun like harmonic thing anyways, right? But whatever that concept is, Korean people try to maintain that a lot, which, I mean, sometimes it looks harmonized, but sometimes it feels very boring. It's like everything's the same thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Harmony is boring. It can be beautiful too, but boring.
and I think bold design
Yeah.
is a lot of the times it's a trade-off with whatever is functional and utilitarian.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think we've talked enough about how utilitarian Korean people are.
Yeah.
So I think they sacrifice design a lot sometimes.
And risk averse.
Yeah.
It's the safe thing to do. If you do something crazy, it could work out very well and be well received. Or it could go the other way.
Yeah.
And in Korean society, more often than not, it goes the other way. Where it gets looked down upon.
I rarely see a building in Korea that has a statement.
Yeah.
Like, I'm this, right? Kind of as the DDP is.
Yeah.
It's always just like, whatever. It's like blah.
I will say again, in line with my general assessment of Korean society, they are very good at hyper optimizing. So they'll take that, let's say it has to be functional, utilitarian, and look luxurious, and then they'll push that to the extreme, right? Which I think that they're very, very good at. So I do think a lot of the new buildings I see coming up in Gangnam, etc., they're not bold per se in that way, but they do these slight innovations to make it seem even more luxurious.
They do?
I think so. I think the center, like our previous work buildings, Centerfield, they're not like every other building. It's like
they're not. It just looked very
luxurious,
like a corporate building, no?
Yeah, but extra luxurious.
It is extra luxurious.
Like you compare it to the previous iteration of that, which was GFC, Gangnam Finance Center. I think Centerfield's even more luxurious looking.
Is it?
I don't know. Maybe that is a bad take.
Well, skyscrapers or corporate buildings is a bit different because it's very utilitarian focused to begin with.
Yeah.
But let's say like, I don't know. I think famously when building designs are really focused on design itself is when you build, let's say, a museum or art center. I think even Korean museum building and art center buildings are very boring. Yeah. They don't.
And maybe they're not as many. Maybe that's not true. Like, is there a version of the MoMA in
There
Seoul?
is.
Oh, okay.
It is very boring looking.
So there's a like Seoul Museum of Modern Art or something?
Yeah, it is called Museum of Modern Art.
Okay. I have not been to many art museums here. So I notice in some of the art districts, it's a lot of smaller galleries, but less the bigger art exhibit places. Yeah.
I think one genre of building design that they're not afraid to be very bold is the luxury fashion flagship stores.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Gentle Monster comes to mind. That's crazy.
That or also like the famous one like Louis Vuitton.
I see.
Like Prada and stuff like that. If you go to like their flagship stores in Gangnam, and I think this has to do a lot with like their mothership.
Yeah, I was gonna say, aren't they just importing in the design from the mothership?
I think so, but still, like, yeah, they're not afraid to be very bold.
I see.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Oh, I was gonna say, at least for our audience who's not familiar, Dongdaemun Design Plaza to me looks like a blown up version of the Chicago Bean. Like in Chicago, there's the giant bean.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's what it looks like to me. It's just like a blown up version of
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it definitely stands out. Very wavy and
Yes. This is not directly related to architecture, but one thing that I also realized when I was going to architecture school,
Yeah.
the difference between Korean architecture schools and American architecture school is that when you do like the critiquing of your building design, you always like plot out something, right? You plot out like a poster thing to present,
yeah.
and it's so interesting. In US schools, you rarely put a title on your building.
Oh,
Whereas
interesting.
if I see Korean architecture school posters,
Always has the
they
title.
always have a title, which personally I think is very cheesy.
Is it? Oh, is it
They
like a
always-
creative title, or
They
is it
always
just
name
like?
it as like, I don't know, the urban beehive or
Ah,
something
I
like
see,
that.
I
They
see.
put a title,
Yeah.
whereas in the US they didn't.
Do you know like I always joke around if you're renting like a luxury thing in the U.S., whether you're at like a ski resort or like a very famous national park, whatever, the houses have names, June.
Oh, like the pensions and stuff, right?
Or like the equivalent of a pension.
Yeah.
They always name them.
Yeah.
I think it's like if you're going to a house that's named, you know it's fancy.
Yeah.
Does that translate to Korea?
Well, famously for apartment buildings, right?
Oh, that's
They
true.
name everything. Which is the most
Weirdest
ridiculous
names.
thing ever. Yeah.
They are weird. The Sharp? It's literally like a hashtag.
The Sharp is a brand.
Okay, what are the individuals then? There's not as many boutique builds in Korea. It's just the big brands, right?
So there is a brand,
Uh-huh.
and then there's an individual name for the building.
Okay. That I didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, like if the famous apartment brands are like Purugio and like iPark.
iPark, yeah.
These things are apartment brands.
Oh, but then they followed up with a community name.
Yeah,
I didn't
like
know. I don't realize.
Adena Palace,
I see.
Adena Luce.
June, I'm surprised you have not mentioned yet I think there are 4 condos or luxury condos.
Apartments.
In Seongsu,
Yeah.
which is like the most expensive place in Korea right now.
Do you
So-
consider that as a condo in the U.S.? Because in Korea they're called apartments,
Oh yeah, so again, the difference. Okay, maybe they're
or they call it 아파트.
apart. By the way, we didn't mention this in Taiwan. That song was everywhere.
Oh,
You just heard
really?
it everywhere.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the difference in the U.S., my understanding is condos are owned, apartments are rented.
Ah.
I don't know if that's actually true, but yeah. In apartments, you can never own the apartment. Someone owns the building, and then you rent out individual units.
Oh, that's what an apartment
But in
is.
condos, it's American
you-
condos are Korean apart because actually people can own that unit. And actually maybe office-tel. No, I don't know if the traditional apartment concept in Korea exists where you can't actually ever buy that unit outright. There's no option to. Someone owns the building and you just forever can rent out individual units.
And the developer owns the building?
Yeah, someone owns that building, and it's actually you can't sell individual units. So
Interesting. I didn't know that.
that concept doesn't exist in Korea, right?
Not that I know
Yeah,
of.
you can always buy it, or there's never ever a single.
Not for
owner.
apartments, but sometimes I think, I don't know.
Villas, maybe.
Villas, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
By the way, this extends to other things too. Like Koreans, we won't get into it, but Koreans love to own things. They don't ever like the idea of an ongoing payment or subscription.
Yeah.
Yeah, even to like software, right? That's why SaaS products are not as successful in Korea. No one wants to pay.
Yeah.
They'd rather pay a bigger sum up front to own it outright. Yeah.
Really?
That's one of my conclusions. But okay, yeah. So these 4, I think, luxury apart in Seoul, they're famous, I think, for being like super high end luxury and very expensive. But architecturally too, I'm sure they stand out. Like you must have some critique or opinion of them. You know what I'm talking about, right? These 4.
Yeah, like 성수 아크로폴에,
Yeah, Agroforest.
갤러리 아폴에. You know, like there's a name.
Wait, Gallery Acrophore?
No, there's one called Acropole,
Okay, which is Acroforest.
and then there's the other called. So the one I think it's officially called Acro Seoul Forest,
Okay.
and then there's Galleria Pore.
Wait, so Gallery Acroforest?
Galleria Pore.
Apore is not... What's Apore?
Acro? Acro is like, I think it's just a whatever.
Oh, but then you said Gallery Apore.
Okay. There's one called Acro Seoul Forest.
Okay.
There's another one called Galleria Pore.
But that's what I'm saying. What is Apore? Because
No,
Acroforest...
Galleria Pore.
Oh, Galleria Pore.
Yeah.
Okay, not Gallery Apore.
Yeah,
Okay, Galleria Pore.
And then there's one called 서울숲 트리마제.
Trimage. So tree...
Trimage.
Oh, trimage.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's not to do with tree.
Yeah.
What about the fourth one? I'm just curious if their names...
Well, there
are
are four. I didn't know.
I thought there were four. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. There must be. These are like luxury apartments
Yeah.
in Korea. I don't...
Do you think architecturally they stand out?
I think the Trimage was famously designed by like a Dutch architect. And then there were a lot of criticisms towards that. Because it wasn't like efficiently, like right angles and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't mention that, right? Koreans, in line with the previous discussion around the fluid Dongdaemun Design Plaza, I don't think we said it explicitly. I do think Koreans love straight lines and
because it's like more
efficient,
functional, efficient, utilitarian. Yeah. I think it's in line with the collectivism, lack of individualism. Like, for instance, I think Americans wouldn't really prefer to live in an apartment building because it's like very standardized and same. And they would rather go for a building, like a spatial layout that more fits their needs. Right?
Yeah.
Well, but again, if you think about like the suburban houses, they all look the same
Yeah,
too.
tract homes. Yeah, they're all going to be designed similarly. So and it's interesting. That is pretty similar. I was going to say one thing that stands out. I think I was told once you never want to live on the most expensive house on your street. Maybe this is not a thing in Korean psyche, but because in America that makes you a target.
For what?
For theft. Yeah.
Oh,
burglary, breaking in. Like, that person's rich.
Yeah.
So I think in Korea, two things. One, it's like the safety aspect. But in general, Koreans don't like to be a target or stand out in general. I don't know if it's a safety thing. I think it's just collectivism more than anything. But in the US, it's maybe a safety thing. You never want to stand out in that way. The other thing that comes to mind is, and I think this translates across cultures, whether you're in a condo where all the units are kind of equivalent in some sense, or like a neighborhood where there's 6 models and all houses are kind of the same in that way too. There's not too much like class differentiation, right? It's like, we're like all together, right? It kind of equalizes things. So of course, in any given neighborhood, they're the higher end homes and they're the less higher end homes. But I think it's more limited, I'd say, to the internal. Just like, what are the add-ons you're going to get? Are you going to get the highest end appliances? Are you going to get the highest end finishes, right? Are you going to get cheap hardwood or expensive hardwood, etc.? At least on the outside, everything seems the same. I don't know if that's true in Korean culture. I wonder, like, Korean apartments, because people don't spend much time in them as far as inviting people over, being able to show off, etc. I think it's probably more rare for Koreans to do upgrades in their apartments. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But I just suspect that's what my understanding of Korean culture would have me conclude.
Really? No, I think it's very common to do the quote-unquote interior before you move into an apartment.
Okay, to customize it, make it for yourself. Good, yeah. I mean, to me, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Why is that though, Jun?
Why is that what? Like, why people do that?
Yeah, so I was coming from a perspective of, Koreans don't invite people over to their home as much. A lot of things that Koreans do or spend money on is for the goal of kind of social signaling or showing off their status and economic class. So why would they invest a lot in, and combined with the fact that Koreans aren't as individualistic, why would they spend much time on their interior design or customizing their unit to their own liking?
I think number one, Korean people really like new things.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Architecture is a rare occasion where you can't really buy new things all the time. By the way, Korean people love this word called 신축,
What's
which
that
is like
mean?
newly built.
Yeah.
It forms like a premium in their price when they
Yes.
buy it.
Yeah.
So they really like 신축 apartments. But if they can't, right? Because like how many new apartments can there be?
Oh, so it's about updating.
Yeah,
I
it's
see.
like you want at least like the interior to look brand new.
I see. That makes sense.
And in terms of like having lack of individual taste, it does well reflect on the interior. Because if you see like interiors, they
Yeah.
all look the same.
Same.
It's like wooden floors, like white.
I
very,
see.
Like very minimalistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that plays a role in the US too. But I think it's more for like updating it to your tastes, not just updating to modernize per se.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
By the way, like to go back to like the ridiculous namings of the apartments, there is sort of like a rule of how they name things.
Okay.
Whenever they're near a park,
Yeah.
they have like park in their apartment, the apartment name,
Yeah.
like Akro River Park.
Yeah.
And when you have a river,
You put river.
yeah. And so Akro River Park, I think Akro is a brand name.
Okay.
And river means that it's like by the river,
By the
and
water.
park maybe it's somewhere near the park.
Makes sense.
And like the reason why they have 4A in all the apartments in Seoul is because famously the park right next to it is
Yeah.
called Seoul
Seoul
Soup.
Soup, yeah.
Soup meaning forest.
That one makes sense to me. I like that they named it forest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, we didn't talk about this, but it goes without saying. I think French is the brand of the sentiment for anything French
Or
is,
European.
Or interesting.
Because I think like Adena Luce.
Oh, that's not French.
Luce,
yeah.
I think, is Italian.
Oh, I would say anything French is associated with high class luxury.
Yeah.
I don't think Americans would say the same about Italian. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Ferrari?
Name something else. Because I think Italy's known to be exotic and romantic, yes.
Italians have luxury brands too, like Gucci, I think is from Italy.
At least my perception of Italy is different from France.
Yeah, there is a different, yeah.
And then German is more like no nonsense, just high quality, but not as artistic,
No
right?
nonsense,
Very
yeah.
serious. And then of course, IKEA or IKEA,
Yeah.
they're known to be just they definitely have an aesthetic, but they're just known
Casual,
to
friendly,
be
yeah.
very good quality for the price.
Yeah.
Those all hold true for Korea too. That's how they think about the different European countries or brands.
I think so. They want it to sound very foreign, I think.
I see.
Yeah.
And exotic.
Yeah.
That's true for.
And if you want to go
American
further than just using English,
Yeah.
what would you do?
Yeah.
Like use French or Italian to stand out?
German has not yet been used in Korea, has it?
German language sounds very harsh though, right?
Okay. We should. This is in line with the episode. Maybe we'll end on this. Did you know Haagen-Dazs is a completely made-up word?
Yeah, you told me.
Okay, good. Yeah. Have we mentioned that on the pod before?
I don't know if you told me personally
yeah.
or on the pod.
I think most Americans are shocked by this too. when
You
we
told
first
me that
found
it's
out.
an American brand, right?
It's an American brand.
It
They
sounds
just named
very
it German,
German.
and it's not a German word. No, they wanted to make it. They used a made-up German word for their branding.
Oh, interesting. I think the
So Americans do it too, right? Just use some random foreign language to stand out or seem exotic. Yeah.
I think the equivalent of that in Korea would be Paul Bassett.
What's that?
It's a cafe franchise name.
Yeah.
Paul Bassett.
Oh, Paul Bassett. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's depicting someone's name.
Put in a French-sounding way.
I don't know if this person actually exists or it's made up.
I'm sure.
But even if they
exist.
exist, it doesn't have a lot to do with their coffee brand. Yeah.
It's just something to stand out.
Yeah.
Seem exotic, foreign.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, Paul Bassett's are everywhere. But okay. We could go on about the English naming forever. We'll hold that for a different
Yeah.
episode. Or maybe not. Come on, to some place?
To some place. I think that's a clever name, no? It's for Tucson.
It's not bad. But I will say my initial impression was like, it sounds like fob English. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, it's a Tucson place.
But just the phrasing of it, like, I mean, yeah, of course, Tucson is valid English. But just seeing something called to some place, yeah, just that's like In my mind, that's how Koreans would think to use English to brand their cafe.
Whenever they have to use like these English or European names, I think the number one rule is that it has to be unrecognizable. It just has to communicate as a feeling of a sound almost.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, we'll stop there.
I kind of wanted to get into book designs, but it's pretty aligned with like poster designs.
Oh, you should at least show them for our video audience.
This is a typical. I don't know if you can see it very clearly.
Here, I'll hold up the English book. You hold up the
very typical American book design.
Yeah.
Versus like a Korean book design here.
Yeah.
Again, you can see how it's very heavily text.
It's almost ridiculously so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the English one is just a giant image. The image is the center of it, right? And it's two people. Yeah. Anyway, it's like chopsticks holding noodles. Yeah.
But I think Korea has surprisingly, I think Korea has very good book cover design. Actually, this one's not really, but they really heavily invest in book design.
Okay.
And I heard that this has to do with the pattern of or the motivation of why people buy books.
Yeah. Why do Korean people buy books, Jun?
To own it. I think it's you know how people buy CDs these days?
Oh,
even if they don't have CD players.
I didn't know that.
For K-pop, if you're a heavy hardcore fan of a certain band,
it's like memorabilia, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just to own
it.
Almost like a souvenir. And I think Korean people tend to buy books that way. Almost like, oh, I want to own this thing. So in that sense, it's only natural that the book cover designs are more
visually appealing.
Yeah. And most of Korean books are hardcover.
Yeah.
And that has to, this one's hardcover, but most American books, when they consume it, they use the soft cover.
I couldn't say that, but I think in America, they always come in both. And the hardcover is just more expensive, right? So unless you're thinking this is like an heirloom type thing, why would you buy the hardcover? Yeah.
Well, and also the paper, they use very light pulp.
We've talked about this before. Yeah. The paper is different.
It's more portable that way.
It's lighter.
Yeah, lighter and portable. Whereas Korea, it's almost always hardcover.
It's just designed to sit on your shelf.
Yeah, and the paper quality is amazing.
Yeah.
It is more heavyweight.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, this is a counterexample today. Your Korean book is soft cover, and the American book is hardcover.
This is a horrible example.
No, but it's a great example of the text. The cover is just text on some indistinguishable, very light, per Jun's point, graphic in the background, but
so ephemeral. Light.
Koreans love this book thing too. This I don't know what you would call it, like a wrapper with more info.
Call it a sleeve, I think. Book sleeve.
Is that the sleeve? I think this is just the sleeve, the protective covering.
Oh, really?
I don't know. But maybe. Koreans love to have the extra sleeve.
Yeah.
For more information.
That's true.
It's very common, I've noticed.
I want to talk about fashion too.
Okay. We have talked about fashion, but not from let's go.
Extending from how when they use English words in cafe names or apartment names, it has to be unrecognizable. Yeah. And I think that sort of extends to fashion.
Okay.
And how they have these letters in clothes.
Yeah.
That has almost no meaning.
Like A-Land? Is that an example?
A-Land?
Yeah. A-Land's a very famous Korean brand, right?
It is, but it's not their own brand.
Oh, okay.
It's where they have multiple brands.
Oh, okay.
Clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a store brand, I think.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, whatever, if you walk down the street in Korea and you see people wearing t-shirts, it's rarely just it's a solid color. Most of the time it has text there, which is 100% of the time it's a Roman character, mostly English, but it has something there, right?
Is that not true in American fashion? I'm thinking of I don't know.
Well, they're more aware of what it says, right? That itself is a statement, the meaning of what it says. Whereas in Korea, I think they just use it for the graphics and how it looks like.
Oh, are you saying, what's an example?
Just randomly say c'est la vie or something.
Oh, like that.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. So yeah, I agree. Korean t-shirt designs have like a text phrase or a thing, and that is the design.
Yes.
They include text in their design.
Yeah.
Which I think American fashion is just a logo or like some sort of print.
Because whatever you put it there, it means something.
Yeah.
And that's why I think rarely Korean people have Hangul in their Korean too, because it means something. Once you start reading and understanding,
I see.
it gives away like the image
the
that
design.
it can. Yeah.
That's true. So basically, Koreans just do the equivalent of Haagen-Dazs everywhere.
Yeah.
Insert random, relatively abstract English phrase.
Well, have you seen some like very ridiculous thing that was written on a T-shirt?
So many. I mean, there's like yeah. I mean, to be clear, in line with one of our previous takes, I see a lot of like very bold, aka like curse words.
Oh, really?
Written everywhere. And I'm just like, that is highly inappropriate. But you're wearing it out, and it's in English, so no one knows.
Yeah.
But none come to mind. But I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Even the brand Mardi,
Mardi?
Mardi.
Oh.
It just means like a day of the week in French, I think.
But I don't think that's a Korean brand.
Oh, it's not. Okay. It just means Tuesday. But I see Marty's a big brand here.
Is it?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a Korean brand.
But that's okay. I take no issue with like the creative liberty of naming a brand that.
Yeah.
You're talking more like we should think of a good example. But yeah, anyway, I know what you're saying. So they just include English text not for the meaning, but as part of the design. Yeah. Very interesting.
Okay, I'm searching. Okay, I'm just gonna search T-shirts in Kupang.
Jun, this just highlights why, that phenomena you just explained. Koreans don't care at all. Like it's literally just noise to them when they see those English words.
Yeah.
But Americans take major issue with it in a sense, and like we laugh and we make fun of it. It's like, why would you possibly, like, what made you put those words on that shirt? Doesn't make sense. Kind of weird, a little corny.
Yeah.
I think the other equivalency thing we've done before is when maybe Westerners put, I don't know, Asian characters as tattoos.
Yeah.
And they don't quite know what it means, but it has a meaning and it's exotic.
And it looks just cool.
It just looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the equivalent. It's all very consistent, right? I think just to summarize, whether it's across book covers, movie posters, video thumbnails, stills, etc., Koreans really love text heavy. And they love, I think, very utilitarian and informative. Whereas Americans really value kind of the graphic and they want it to be more, it's almost like artistic.
Yeah.
And maybe left up to interpretation, but more to leave an impact, not to convey information, I think is my conclusion. So yeah, this is true across, I think, a lot of different fields, domains, categories. But I think that root thing is pretty consistent.
Yes. Wow. I'm proud that we came to a very meaningful conclusion. I was kind of nervous.
Oh, yeah, no, I think it's good.
Yeah.
All right. June, let's wrap up. As always, if you'd like to support us, one way you can do so is through Patreon. For the minimum tier of $1 a month, you can get access to our Discord where you can discuss our latest episodes, ask questions, interact with us, or propose future episode topics. Since our last episode, we've had a influx, June, maybe with the new year.
Yay.
We'd like to give a shout out to our new member since last recording. First up, we have Lou. Thank you, Lou.
Thank you, Lou.
Lou's been very active in our Discord as well.
Yes.
Thank you to Christian.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, JS.
Thank you, JS.
Maybe we shouldn't show favoritism, June, but extra thank you to Amadeus.
Amadeus.
Yeah, thank you, Amadeus.
Thank you, Amadeus.
You know why.
Yeah.
And thank you to Jin Young. Yeah, if you'd like to support our content and support us in producing this type of content, too many contents. Yeah, Patreon goes a long way to keeping the lights on and keeping us able to do so. So thank you. Also, with the new year, we've been saying, if you want to support us in other ways, please consider sharing us with a friend or colleague or someone you know that might be interested in our content too.
Please do.
All right, that's it for this week.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
You know why.
Yeah.
And thank you to Jin Young.
Jin Young?
Yeah.
That's their name?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lee Jin Young? Is that a weird Korean name?
Oh, no. It's just my boss's name. But it's not the same person.
How do you know? Because they're not an E?
They're not an E.
Okay.